want to thank all the men who have led us so well tonight. I don't have much that I can add to anything that anyone has already said. I think Marvin and Jackson and Tori have summed it up quite well. I would say, though, that in the audience tonight are several who I would consider my heroes in ministry and my heroes in the faith, and some of whom I don't get to see quite frequently, men like Tim Alsop, for example. Tim and I don't see each other that much, but I consider him a great hero in the faith. And Jackson, I too am thankful for your pappy. I believe that there have been few people on this planet who have impacted my life in such a good way in the ministry than your grandfather, and you have that to be thankful for. We share that, and thank you for sharing that with me. I want to begin by addressing some of your questions, just so if I do it from the pulpit, maybe I won't get bombarded at the end. Yes, we're doing well. Kayla and Emmy are doing well. They're at home. No, we're not getting any sleep. Yes, that is expected. And yes, I'm thankful for coffee tonight. I'm hyped up on about 500 milligrams of caffeine, and I love it. As we close our service tonight, I'm reminded, and Ron mentioned this as we began, and several others have as well, that not everyone comes to this time of year with the same attitude. For many of us, it's a great time of joy. We're thankful to be with our families, as has been mentioned. We're thankful to share meals together, and abundant meals that... Have you ever thought about explaining an appetizer to someone in a third world country? It's the food we eat before we eat, right? I mean, we are blessed so abundantly. And we're thankful for that, and we have great reasons to rejoice. But there are others, many of whom might even be sitting in your seat tonight, who will approach this season, tomorrow, for example, with an attitude of unhappiness. And they might think, as Ron mentioned earlier, what do I have to be thankful for? Perhaps there's an empty seat at the table. Perhaps there's an empty seat beside you tonight that you wish was full. Maybe your family is long distance and it'll just be a phone call or a FaceTime that you get to have with them. Maybe you are struggling with finances, your job. Maybe you're having difficulty at home. Those things are real, and real people have real problems. But if I pause and think about someone in Scripture who was a real person who had real problems, I can't help but think of Job. Job was attacked mentally, physically, and spiritually. Physically, he was attacked by having his health and his possessions taken. Mentally, he was attacked by having his wife, his spouse, the person who was his other half, refuse to worship God, refuse to stand by his side, and try to get him to do something sinful. He also had 3 friends who accused him of being sinful. And spiritually, he questioned God. Why is this happening to me? I want my day in court. I want to answer the accusations that are being brought forth. And as this book continues, we get to the last chapter where God basically, beginning in chapter 38 and following to the end of the chapter, God says, that's for me to know and you to just deal with. I know things you don't. I'm in charge. And here's what Job says in Job chapter 42, beginning in verse 2. Speaking to God, he says, I know that you can do all things. No purpose of yours can be thwarted. When you have everything taken from you and when life doesn't seem to be the greatest, what do you have to be thankful for? First, we can be thankful that God can do all things. God can do all things. We've seen great and heard great stories tonight of God doing amazing things, curing diseases, blessing beyond belief, bringing you to today. Verse 3 continues, you ask, who is this who darkens counsel without knowledge? But I have declared without understanding things too wonderful for me to know. God can do all things, and I can be thankful because God knows more than me. Thank goodness. I have learned over the past week, I don't know as much as I thought I did. And I'll continue to learn that. I'm thankful God knows more than me. I'm thankful that I can go to the Lord, and when I don't even know what to pray for, I can just pause and say, Spirit, speak to my heart. Bring my cares before the throne. verses 10 through 17, I'm not going to take time to read all this, but I do want you to notice that this is the passage where God blesses Job with more than what he originally had. That God restores to Job more abundantly than he originally had. Job was already a wealthy man. It would be sort of like Elon Musk getting back double. But if you notice in verse 12, the Lord blessed the second part of Job's life more than the first. He had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, 1,000 female donkeys. And then verse 13, he also had 7 sons and 3 daughters. The first daughter he named Jeminiah, the second Keziah, and the third Karen-Hapuk. Nowhere in all the land could women be found who were as beautiful as Job's daughters, and their father granted to them an inheritance alongside their brothers. We can be thankful because God can do all things. We can be thankful because God knows more than us. And we can be thankful because God blesses us beyond belief. And you might say, yeah, Job had physical blessings. Good for him. He was a very wealthy man. I find it interesting that the passages about Job's family are triple in length the passage about his physical possessions. What was it that really mattered to Job? It was those who were closest to him. It was his family.